Now, in this next handout here, and again, you'll find this under my course handouts, and it should be in the video information under the video in YouTube. What I have is a worksheet to work through with you on practice with Shiva. Okay, so we're going to practice doing what we've just done on the other handout. We want to label the Shivas and then divide the syllables in the following words. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll start on the left side here. And I've given you the meanings of these words just so that you know. But remember, we start at the beginning of the word. And I've got a Shiva under the first consonant. So what did we learn about that? What we learned was that a Shiva at the beginning of a word is always vocal. And if it's vocal, can I divide right there? No, I cannot, right? Not allowed to do that. If I'm going to have a vocal Shiva here, I'm going to let it piggyback on the next consonant and full vowel, which is resh, kirik, yod. And notice I can't divide here because the tav does not have its own vowel. The tav is closing the syllable. The resh, kirik, yod, tav is a consonant, vowel, consonant. So what I have here is, in effect, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, right? Consonant cluster at the beginning, br, 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 and then the eat. So this is really not dividable. How many vowels do I have if I'm not treating vocal Shiva as a vowel? I only have one vowel, kirik, yod. So I can't split the atom here. This is undividable and it's one syllable. Okay? So is it open or closed? It is closed because the one vowel that I have has a consonant at the end of it. Okay? So barith, barith. This is the word for covenant. Now look at the next one. Here I have a kof with a Shiva under it at the beginning of the word. You know what to do with this, don't you? This is clearly a vocal Shiva. So we're not going to divide here. Never divide to the left of a vocal Shiva. You always divide to the right, but since we're at the beginning of a word, we don't need a dividing line here. And then I let it piggyback on the next consonant vowel, kata, kata, and then I might want to divide here, but the next consonant has a Shiva under it, so I have to determine, is it silent or vocal? Because I don't know whether to divide here or here until I know whether it's silent or vocal. Well, how do I find out? Look to the right. What's the vowel called? It's pathak, and that is a short A vowel, a short vowel. If it's short, then the Shiva is silent. If the Shiva is silent, where do I always divide? Always divide to the left, because the consonant is part of the preceding consonant vowel structure. It's closing the syllable. And go ahead and put close there. Katal, no sound, katal, and then I have tem, consonant, vowel. Now don't divide there yet because you've got a closing consonant. So consonant, vowel, consonant, that's closed. How many vowels do I have? Remember, vocal Shiva is not a vowel. I only have one, pathak, two, sagol, two vowels, so I should have two syllables, and the one line divides this into the two syllables. Katal, tem, you killed. I told you Hebrew is a violent language, didn't I? All right, next one. I have a yod with a kirik. That does constitute the core of a syllable. But the question is does the next consonant, does it have a vowel under it? The answer is no. It's got a Shiva. So I can't know yet whether I should divide here or not. I've got to settle the matter of whether the Shiva is silent or vocal. What do? Look to the right. Is that long or short? Kirik is short, so the Shiva is silent. If the Shiva is silent, divide where? To the left. So I've got a closed syllable. Remember, silent Shivas mark a closed syllable. Yish, no sound, silent. Yish. And then bet, holam, tav. Consonant, vowel, consonant. That's closed as well. I cannot divide that any further because I've only got one vowel over here, not two. So don't split that. So yish boat. He will rest. Yish boat. Silent Shiva. Next one. This is a tav with a kirik under it. The next consonant kof has a Shiva. So I've got to settle the Shiva question to know whether I divide before or after. What do? Look to the right. Keurig long or short? It's short, so the Shiva is silent. Shiva silent, divide where? Divide to the left. And we already know that when I have two Shivas in the middle of a word anyway, the first one's going to be silent and the second one's going to be vocal. But by walking through this process, we've also found another reason to divide here, right? Because we looked to the right and saw the silent or the short vowel. Now this vocal Shiva cannot constitute its own syllable. It piggybacks on the next consonant vowel, and so I can't divide here any further. Tick, no sound, tick, and then t-li. Tick, t-li, tick, t-li. How many vowels do I have? 2. Keurig, Keurig yod. Keurig, Keurig yod. 2 vowels, 2 syllables. And then the next and final word is an ayin with a compound Shiva. Now, at the beginning of a word, any Shiva is vocal, but we learned that under gutturals, an ayin is a guttural consonant produced in the back of the throat. Okay? When it wants a vocal Shiva, it will get a compound Shiva instead, and compound Shivas are vocal Shivas. They're just a specific kind of vocal Shiva. So will I divide here? The answer is no, because compound Shivas and vocal Shivas are both vocal Shivas, and we're not going to treat them as their own vowel. They're not real vowels. So this is also going to piggyback onto the next consonant-vowel combination and create a consonant cluster. So this is going to be ava, ava. Now I come to the next consonant, and I don't have a vowel under it. I have a Shiva. So I can't just divide here and assume it's open. I've got to check the identity of this Shiva, and I do that by looking to the right and asking, is the vowel to the right of it long or short? Pathak is a short A, so the Shiva is silent, and if it's silent, I divide to the left of the silent Shiva. So this is avad, avad, closed syllable because I'm ending with a consonant that has a silent Shiva, and then 10, consonant, vowel, consonant, tav, sigol, nun. That's closed as well. Avad 10, so this is they serve. So we've labeled the Shivas, and we've divided the syllables. Now, the other thing that you learned about in this chapter, in chapter 3, was to attach the inseparable prepositions to words. And so we're going to take the preposition beit, and we're going to attach the inseparable preposition beit to these words here, just to practice that also. So what do we do when we need to say in a covenant? In a covenant. Well, the word berith already has a bet with a vocal Shiva under it. That looks like the preposition bet, but it's not. It is simply the first part of the word for covenant, berith. So I'm going to have to prefix a bet in front of this, and I'm going to want to put a vocal Shiva, and bet is a begat kafat letter. It comes standard with a dagesh lene, a dagesh, a dot. Now, what's the problem here? I have 2 vocal Shivas side by side. What do I do with that? I have a red rider problem, and I have to solve it with a red rider BB gun. The vocal Shiva here, the second one is going to shoot out the I of the first vocal Shiva, and then what's going to happen? After that Keurig, this Shiva is going to be silent, okay? Now, there's one other thing that happens here, and you're not really aware of it yet, but that dagesh lene is going to end up going away, and it'll become a V sound. And we'll talk about that in chapter 4, but this will be pronounced biv, silent Shiva, wreath. Biv, wreath. Okay, so b, berith becomes biv, wreath. Shot out an I. This became silent. Okay? Now, let's talk about this one, shivot. This has a vocal Shiva already under the first letter, shivot. I'm going to add a bet preposition. It's going to take a vocal Shiva as well, at least it wants to, but now I have 2 vocal Shivas at the beginning of the word side by side. It's a red rider issue. We will resolve it by shooting out an I, and then what's going to happen here? The Shiva is going to become silent as well. So I get a Keurig and a silent Shiva. How am I going to pronounce this? This is Bishboat. Bishboat. Okay? And then lastly, I have avode with a compound Shiva. And I want to add a bet preposition to this. So what do? Under normal circumstances, I add a bet with a vocal Shiva, since the prepositions, these inseparable prepositions, come standard with vocal Shiva. But now I have a problem. I have a vocal Shiva next to a compound Shiva, which is a kind of vocal Shiva. And two vocal Shivas cannot be together at the beginning of the word. What will happen? This is the more violent remedy, and that is that the compound Shiva will take out the Red Ryder BB gun and shoot out both eyes and replace them with a short vowel that corresponds to the vowel element in the compound Shiva. In this case, it's a pathak along with the Shiva, so we're going to put a full pathak vowel under the bet where the vocal Shiva's eyes were shot out. So this is ba avod, ba avod, ba avod. All right? So that's just some practice with adding the inseparable prepositions to these words. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is this matter of labeling syllables for their tone or for their stress or accent. We've talked about this already some. I just want to formalize it in a handout here. And the beginning of Ross chapter 4 actually lays this out as well. But remember, I differ from Ross on some things, so we want to be careful to do this the way I'm suggesting. Now, as we discussed in the handout Hebrew syllables, Hebrew places the standard accent or tone or stress on the final syllable. And therefore, the accent on final syllables is unmarked in our textbook. And your first inclination should always be to stress the last or the ultimate syllable. If the accent's on a non-final syllable, the accent or tone is indicated by placing the symbol, and this is what the symbol looks like, over the consonant that begins the stressed syllable, as in the word melech, which is king. Okay, you remember melech, and there is the accent over the mem of melech, and the word for earth or land is eretz, and the stress is on the first syllable, so it's not final syllable stress here in either of these, and so that's why I have the overt accent there. Now, you will need to learn how to label the syllables of a word for its relationship to the tone. And each syllable in a word can be labeled in one of the following ways, and I'm going to ask you to use these abbreviations for the location of the tone or stress. Okay? We're going to use the abbreviation T for the word tonic. The syllable that is tonic is the stressed syllable, which is usually going to be the final syllable. Okay, so you'll put a T over the final syllable if it's the tonic syllable. Any syllable that's stressed is the tonic syllable. You'll label it with a T. PT stands for pretonic, and this is the syllable right before the stressed syllable. And remember, since we're reading from right to left, the syllable before the stressed syllable will actually be to the right of it. That's pretonic. PPT means propertonic, and this is any syllable before the pretonic syllable. Not just the one right before the pretonic syllable, but any syllable before the pretonic syllable. In relation to the tonic syllable, it's any syllable that is two or more syllables before the tonic syllable. And then the abbreviation post means post-tonic. And this is the syllable right after the stressed or tonic syllable. So notice all of these abbreviations are abbreviations that have their significance relative to the tone. You're either tonic or you're someplace relative to the tonic, pretonic, propertonic, or posttonic. So just looking at a couple of examples, we have hof, kod, tem. Hof, kod, tem. There's no accent mark anywhere here, so I assume the final syllable must be accented. That will be labeled T for tonic. The syllable before is labeled PT for pretonic, and the syllable before that is PPT for propertonic. Okay? I don't want you to worry about how I got the syllable divisions and how I knew that was a kametz ketuf over here and a silent shiva. I just want you to notice the placement of the tone abbreviations. Here I have car, Car-mally. Car-mally. Again, there's no overt accent over here, so I assume final syllable stress. And so the final syllable being stressed was the tonic syllable. I need a T here. And the syllable before is pretonic, PT. Eretz has an overt stress mark here. There's my syllable divider. Since the overt stress or accent mark is here, then that is the tonic syllable. And so this syllable is not pre, it's not before, it's post, it's after. So I will use the word post for post-tonic for that syllable. I have Shmuel. Shmuel. Again, no overt accent mark over here, so I assume final syllable stress. The final syllable stress is the tonic syllable, and that means the one before must be pre-tonic. Shmuel. Accent that final syllable. Shmuel. And then Melech has two syllables, overt accent mark over the first one, so that's tonic, and therefore the one after must be post-tonic. Okay? So that's some help with knowing how to divide your syllables.